Imagine you wake before sunrise in an Ice Age camp. The roof above you is brush, grass, and bent branches. The floor is packed earth. Your food is almost gone. Yesterday, you saw fresh tracks near the water. Today, you were supposed to follow them. And then the rain starts before anyone stands up. Not a soft rain, a cold, slanting, body soaking rain that pushes through every weak place. It keeps going through morning, then through the night, then the next day. And the ground outside turns into a trap. You can't read tracks when water has smashed them flat. You can't walk far when one bad step can ruin your leg. And out here, a ruined leg isn't an inconvenience. It's a countdown. The fire starts coughing smoke. The dry wood pile looks smaller every hour. And suddenly the problem isn't boredom. It's how to keep everyone alive until the world becomes walkable again. For ancient humans, a rainy week didn't pause life. It rearranged it. And the strange thing is, some of the most human work may have happened when nobody could leave camp. Now, when it rains for you, the danger mostly disappears behind glass. You make coffee. You find a blanket. Maybe the storm even feels nice. But put that same body under cold rain with wind behind it, and everything changes fast. And here's why that was so terrifying. Humans are warm weather animals wearing almost no natural insulation. Rain steals heat through wet skin. Wind strips away the warm air your body is trying to hold, and evaporation keeps pulling heat off you even after the rain slows. In 1996, researchers put men through a cold rain test. The air was only 5 degrees Celsius. The wind was moving at 8 kilometers an hour, and the rain was heavy enough to soak them for hours. 11 of 18 couldn't finish the full 5 hours. 2 dropped toward real hypothermia, around 35 degrees Celsius inside the body. Their shivering rose hard. Their hands lost strength. And think about that for a second. If your fingers don't work, you can't tie knots. You can't repair a spear. You can't strike flakes cleanly from stone. You can't keep a child warm. So the first rainy week job wasn't heroic. It was maintenance. Keep the fire alive. Keep the smoke from choking the shelter. Keep bodies, bedding, fuel, and tools just dry enough to matter. Fire had already been part of the human story for a very long time. At Gesher Beno Yaakov in Israel, burned flint shows controlled fire around 790,000 years ago. That's not a cozy detail. That's the difference between a wet night and a survivable one. By about 300,000 years ago, Chesem Cave near Tel Aviv had a central hearth used again and again. A thick ash feature, roughly 4 square meters across. Burned animal bones around it. People coming back to the same warm center. But here's where the rainy week turns into something bigger than staying dry. A fire inside shelter is also a problem you have to solve. Too far out, and the rain kills it. Too far in, and smoke fills your lungs. At Lazaret Cave in France, researchers modeled how smoke moved through the space. The old hearth sat near an unusually good low-smoke activity zone, about 5 meters by 5 meters. That means somebody understood the room, not with a diagram, with eyes, lungs, memory, and a lot of uncomfortable nights. And once the fire is safe, the shelter becomes something else. Not just a place to hide. A work platform. Now here's where it gets really interesting. On the Sea of Galilee, archaeologists found Ohalo 2, a 23,000-year-old fisher hunter-gatherer camp. It had 6 brush huts, hearths, a grave, and plant remains preserved so well because the site spent thousands of years underwater. One hut was only about 12 square meters inside. That isn't much bigger than a small bedroom. But inside that little space, there were about 60,000 seeds and plant remains. Not scattered like trash from nowhere, grouped around a grinding stone. So picture the rain hammering outside. Inside, someone is grinding wild grains. Someone else is cracking flakes from flint. Another person is keeping the passage clear because even a tiny house needs traffic rules. This is the part that changes the picture. They weren't just sitting in a cave waiting. They were using space. Kitchen corner, workshop corner, sleeping area near the wall. A one-room Paleolithic home, small enough to smell the smoke in your hair. And that leads to the work nobody sees in museum displays. Rainy days were repair days. A spear point loosened by use has to be reset. A scraper edge has to be sharpened. A hide cover has to be patched before the next storm comes through. A wet cloak has to be opened near the fire, but not burned. And then there's string. This sounds small until you try to live without it. No string means no tied spear points, no nets, no bags, no shelter lashings when the wind pulls at the roof. At Abri du Maras in southeastern France, archaeologists found a tiny 3-ply cord fragment with Neanderthal tools. Tiny, but enormous, because twisting fibers means planning several steps ahead. You gather the plant, strip it, twist one bundle one way, then twist bundles together the other way. That is rainy week work. At Pavlov 1 in the Czech Republic, impressions from about 26,000 years ago point to woven or interlaced fibers. Maybe baskets, maybe nets, maybe textiles. All the things that rot before archaeology can catch them. And that's why ancient rain gear is so hard to see. By 3300 BCE, Otzi the Iceman was wearing layers of hide, leather, and grass in the Alps. One grass object may have been a rain mat, or maybe part of a backpack. Either way, the principle is older than the object. Layer what you have. Hide, bark, grass, sinew, fiber. Keep water away from skin for 1 more hour. Now the rain changes food too. A long hunt becomes expensive when every step costs heat. Tracks wash out. Visibility shrinks. But rain doesn't only close doors. In some places, it opens different ones. Among the Hadza of Tanzania, wet seasons bring more berries and honey into the diet. Dry seasons can make hunting easier because animals gather near water. So the answer wasn't just go hungry, it was switch foods. Process what you already had. Share what came in unevenly. And, later in the story, store more than you needed for the moment. In the Jordan Valley, people had pre-domestication granaries around 11,000 years ago. Before farming took over, some hunter-gatherers were already building for tomorrow. And that takes us to children. Because a rainy week inside isn't quiet if children are there. They watch fingers twist cord. They watch stone break the right way and the wrong way. They learn which fuel smokes. They learn which stories make adults lower their voices. Archaeologists have found signs of children learning, playing, making marks, and handling small tools. So a storm can become a classroom, not with desks. With smoke, hunger, wet clothes, and someone saying, "Watch this." Then evening comes. The fire stops being only a heater. It becomes a stage. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wiesner compared 174 day and night conversations among Jew/Huansi people. Day talk leaned toward work, plans, and social problems. Night talk shifted. Stories, ritual, jokes, memories, absent relatives, the emotional glue of a group. And you can feel how a rainy week would intensify that. Nobody can wander far. The fire holds everyone in one circle. A child learns the map without walking it, where the honey trees are, what animals do after storms, which relatives will share. What happened last time someone ignored the old warning? Now here's the part nobody expects. Rain wasn't only the enemy. Rain may have helped create home, because when the sky shuts down, travel, the inside starts to matter more. Where the fire goes, where the sleeping place stays dry, where the food is ground, where children can sit without getting stepped on, where smoke will rise instead of settle. That's not decorating. That's architecture beginning as survival. Donald Henry's survey in southern Jordan makes that planning visible on a larger scale. He looked at 109 sites spread from about 150,000 to 6,000 years ago. Around 70,000 years ago, long-term camps show up for the winter wet season. Shorter camps fit the warm, dry season. So they weren't just surprised by weather every time it changed, they were planning around it. And in colder Ice Age places, shelter could become heavier, stranger, more permanent. At Mezhirich in Ukraine, people built structures with mammoth bones. At Dolny Vestonets and Pavlov, people left huts, fired clay figures, and traces of fiber work. Different places, different materials, same pressure. Weather forces decisions. And the hidden hero of a rainy week might not be the best hunter. It might be the repairer, the person who knows where the dry tinder is buried, which fibers twist without snapping, how to patch a seam before water finds it, how much food can be eaten now, and how much has to wait. This is the half of prehistory that's easiest to miss. Not the dramatic moment when a spear flies. The long hours that make the next spear possible. So when it rained all week, ancient humans didn't simply do nothing. They moved closer to fire. They protected dry fuel. They ground seeds. They fixed tools. They twisted cord. They patched shelter. They fed children. They argued, probably. They joked, because people are people, and they told the stories that made tomorrow less dangerous. The rain didn't stop the human story, it pushed it indoors. And because so much of that indoor world was made of grass, bark, hide, fiber, and smoke, most of it vanished. What remains is stone, ash, bone, and a few lucky fragments. But if you listen to those fragments carefully, you can hear the week of rain. The roof leaking, the fire being nursed back, the grinding stone moving in the dark, the child watching, the old story starting again. A rainy week was not empty time. It was the place where broken things got fixed, wet things got dried, and frightened people became a little more ready. And maybe that's why it feels strangely familiar. Because when the weather closes in, humans still do the same ancient thing. We move closer together. We fix what we can. We wait for the world to open. And in that waiting, we remember that survival was never just the chase. It was the fire kept alive through the long rain.